Hello everyone, Evelyn here, Shawn Petite creative team member. Do you remember my first post for Shawn? There I made this art journal. I already finished some pages in it and today I want to make a new one. Here you can see the materials I used, but they will all be listed on the blog. For my page I used 4 stencils from Shawn. These are Lavender, Mason Jar, Mediterranean Duo 1 and Bricks and Bubbles. To start off my page I glued down some paper from a collage pack from Shawn Petite. This is from the Shabby Wood collage pack and I glued it down with golden matte medium. At the bottom of my page I wanted another sort of paper and I used some pages of a very old book I someday found on a flea market, and I really love this paper. It's really old and fragile, and yes, it's perfect for shabby grungy style. Next I spread some white gesso with my palette knife all over the page randomly, and I find it's a perfect way to bring everything together and neutralize the background a little bit. This is the Mediterranean Duo 1 stencil, and I wanted to bring some texture to the background. I use white gesso with a brush, and as you can see I push it with my finger to the edges of the stencil. That way you can create an amazing unique texture. For the bottom I use the Bricks and Bubbles stencil, and I used it the same way as the Mediterranean stencil with white gesso and pushing with my finger to the edges. To grunge up and tone down the background I used acrylic paint in Van Dyke Brown and acrylic medium to make a glaze. Using a glaze is all about layering. A glaze gives you very much freedom. You can put on the glaze everywhere and also can take away as much or less you want. You can perfectly enhance your texture in the background, and the glazing medium gives you enough time to work with. The technique I apply here is one technique I learned from Shawn indeed. I use alcohol on my rag to scrub away some of the paint, especially on the erased part and in the middle of my page to lighten it up. You get an amazing result and I love how it turned out. To create a rusty look I used fluid acrylics in transparent red iron oxide and quinacridone gold, and for more dirty look, I used Payne's Grey. I really like how it turned out. Here I paint a line to create a border between the top and the bottom part. It creates a kind of perspective. For my focal point I used the stencil mason jar. I used the middle-sized one, and I wanted to paint a bluish glass jar. To paint transparent objects, you have to use your paint in very thin layers, so you can create the illusion of transparency. I wanted to come the light from the left hand side, so that I had to paint a shadow on the right hand side, on the bottom of the jar. Then I did go on to fill in the color, set lowlights and highlights, and fill in the waterline. And I had much fun to paint this. Now I used the lavender stencil to fill my jar. For the stamps I used a variety of green and black. I stenciled with a makeup sponge. For my blossoms I wanted to mix a purple, but well, I was not really successful. I didn't like my purple very much, although I used it for the background. Later I used acrylic paint in lavender. Now I took some paint to set highlights and give some variation in the color, and this is one of the best things of Shawn's stencils. You always can make your stenciled picture your own with only some brush strokes. I thought something was missing, so I stenciled one more stem of lavender to the bottom. For the finishing touches I used a white jelly roll pencil, and one tip from me to make it more organic: dab on top of the wet paint so the lines are not that harsh. And now I went around the most of the stems and the jaw to make it stand out more. I used a black charcoal pencil. I decided to stamp my words onto tissue paper. I used alphabet stamps and stamped them with VersaFine Clear Nocturne. I teared out my words and put them down with matte medium. The words turned out very pale, and to make them more visible, I went over the letters with my black Sharpie marker. After that, I surrounded them with my white Jelly Roll pen. Some white dots and lines here and there finished my page, and the very last step was to surround my page with a black jelly crayon. Well, that's it from me for today. I hope you like my little page, and if so, I would appreciate a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe. So have a good time. Thank you for watching, and bye bye. See you soon.